Hey guys, welcome back to Chapter 1 Book Reviews. I know I haven't been posting for a while, but I've been really busy with school. Today we're going to review one of my favorite books, House of Gucci, which is now a film by Sarah Fortman. So, House of Gucci is about the Gucci family and their war to take control of the company, as well as the murder of Maurizio Gucci, who was the descendant of one of the original founders of Gucci. And he was supposed to inherit the company, but he was murdered by his wife or ex-wife. So, House of Gucci. How do I like the book? First of all, I think the book is fantastic. It's a true story. All the events are completely real, and I think the way they wrote it made it completely factual, but also very interesting at this time. This book is probably as interesting, or just as, even more interesting than some fiction books. Now, what do I think about the film, which obviously is... I've watched the film. I think the film, the acting, and the portrayal of characters is pretty good. And I think they did a really good job with the casting. But I really don't think that it lived up to the absolute detail. Probably because the movie's already more than 2 hours. So they don't really have time to include all the details of the book. But it was definitely a bit of a letdown because they missed some important parts. For example, in the book, Aldo Gucci... and he had 3 sons, Paolo, Giorgio, and Roberto. But they only talked about Paolo, making it so that if someone just watched a movie by themselves, they wouldn't know that Aldo had 2 other sons, period. And they did not talk about the Armani takeover of Gucci and how Domenico De Sole and Tom Ford managed to fight it off. These are all very interesting details of the book, but they were not included. However, I still have to give credit to the movie. I think they did a really good job, and it was definitely well-directed and interesting for me. To be honest, this book is one of my favorite nonfiction books. As you know, I haven't read too many nonfiction books, but if I were to rate this one, it would definitely be among the top. And this book is a perfect example of how you can make something nonfiction but extremely intriguing at the same time. Now, this is a really long book and it's completely factual, but I would say my favorite part of the book is the part where Paolo and Maurizio and Maurizio's father, Rodolfo, had a fight over the company and their shares. So basically, this book, for those of you who haven't read it, is divided into 3 main parts. The first one is how Gucci started. How did it become the global success that it... Well, not global, but how did it become successful in the start? Second part is the family wars. So between Guccio, the founder, Guccio Gucci, had 3 sons, Vasco, Rodolfo, and Aldo. Vasco died without any sons, so he had no inheritance of the company. And Aldo had 3 sons, Giorgio, Roberto, and Paolo. Paolo later tried to start his own line called PG, but he was sued for using the Gucci name, and there was a massive lawsuit. But eventually, the judge awarded Paolo the right to use his own Paolo as his name, but not to have any association with the Gucci brand. And Rodolfo's only son was Maurizio, who was accused of forging his father's signature because his father forgot to sign over his share of the company to Maurizio. And basically, the big war is over Maurizio and his shares of the company and him trying to kick the rest of the family out, which is heavily influenced by his wife, Patrizia Reggiani, who later murdered him and was sentenced to 29 years of prison, but went off at 15 years for, I'm not sure, I think good behavior. I don't know the details. And the third part of the book is about Investcorp, which is the company that Maurizio partnered with in order to buy his family members out, because at that time Gucci was not the global success that it is now, and so they had to find a way to buy his family out. And eventually, Investcorp and Maurizio had a fight, and because Maurizio had a certain vision for the company, which the Investcorp, the person in charge of the Gucci deal with Investcorp, Kerdar, he agreed with it, but he wanted a CEO to be in charge of it. So eventually, Investcorp basically forced Maurizio out of the company by buying off his shares and put Domenico De Sole, a lawyer in charge. And basically, that's the third part. Major credit to Gucci's success goes to their designer, Tom Ford. He is basically the reason that Gucci is very successful today, because at that time, Gucci was definitely, they had massive debts, they were losing money each year because Maurizio slashed some of the most money-making designs, and they really couldn't come up with anything. But eventually, Gucci reached $1 billion and $2 billion, and now they're valued over $60 billion. A massive change. Another key part of the book that I enjoyed is the part they talk about LVMH and the Armani. Bernard Armani trying to take over Gucci. He was slowly buying up the shares, but eventually Investcorp and Domenico De Sole managed to find a person who worked in another business but was very successful to buy off the Gucci shares, and managed to basically dilute Armani's shares, preventing the takeover. That's also very interesting. So in my opinion, the book, excellent, very factual. I'll give it 4.9 out of 5 stars. And for the film, I'd say 4, because in terms of a film, it's fantastic, but if you've read the book, I would say it's a bit of a letdown. So as always, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this book/movie review. And please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching Chapter 1.